morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Christelle Rinn, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at HRLocker. So today we're going to go through how to set up the payroll elements and the payroll IDs into your HRLocker so that you can download a payroll preparation file. So I suppose specifically for companies who may be paying people by the hour or paying people double time or time and a half outside of their basic time. So we're going to go through how to set that up in the system, what the reports look like. We have two new reports, so I'll just go through the two different reports. And then as usual, I have, I'm spoiled today, I have both Nikki and Jenny with me today in regards to just monitoring any of the questions and answers. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please stop me and put in a question. I'm happy to go through anything as we go. So I'm just going to share screen. So we're over here. So in HRLocker, if you are actually using the payroll side of things, we'll go through the settings from an office space side of things to go through exactly how to set up the payment IDs, put in any rounding rules that you have, any grace periods that you may have, how to align these to your actual work patterns, and how we can align these then to the overall time off that you have as well. And again, go through, I suppose, if you're using Sage or BrightPay or any other payroll system, we'll go through specifically which reports to use. Okay, so we're going to start off here in the settings section on the black ribbon. And when you enter in your payroll IDs, you need to enter them in per office. So we're going into the office section over here. And if you have payroll turned on for your company, if you go to the settings, so we're in the head office over here, and we're going into the settings section here. And you'll see here there's payroll settings. So I'm going to click into payroll, and there are a number of settings here that I can change, all very specific to your own company. So if you have any questions about this kind of rounding side of things first, if you want to come and talk to one of us, or if you just have any an idea of what you do in your own company, we can set it up here for you. So first of all, you need to decide, are there rounding policies and do they apply for this office? So we'll go through each one of these. So say, for example, the grace period. So in regards to the actual, when people are coming to work, when they're clocking in and out, if they're 2 or 3 minutes late or 2 or 3 minutes early, do you want to ignore this, or do you want to take this out of their time? So most people will put in a grace period of 5 minutes or so. So you can put in your grace period there, and it'll apply to anybody in this office. So the next thing then, I suppose, again, are your rounding. You can make this as complicated or as easy as you want. So we really tried to make sure that we're able to, go for any company's policies that they have. So clocking in before their start time. So say, for example, if somebody's coming to work and they're clocking in 15 minutes before their start time, do you want to count that as them coming in early and you're going to pay them for that 15 minutes, or do you want to ignore that? So what kind of grace period are you looking for there, or rounding period are you looking for there in regards to when you actually want to start putting them on the payroll, I suppose? So you can put in rounds 2, so you can round it to the next 15 minutes, the last 15 minutes, or nothing. The same can apply here for your clocking in after their start time. So it rounds the start time in the next 15 minutes. So you can, you can do kind of both of these settings. Then you can look at, so they're around the start time. Then you can look at around the end time. So for example, if somebody finishes at 4 o'clock and they're clocking out at 3 minutes to 4, do you want to ignore that, or do you want to round it up to the next 15 minutes, or do you want to round it down, or what kind of rules actually apply for you there, or do you not want to do anything at all? Same as if they, for example, finish in 4 o'clock, but they clock out at 20 past 4. Do you want to pay them for that full 20 minutes, or do you want to round it down? Or round it up or ignore it. So there are your start time and your end time rounding policies. Then we look at the break side of things. So again, are you paying people for breaks? Are they unpaid, limited paid breaks? Do you want to round if people are outside of their break period? So they're the rounding policies. If you do not round at all and it's completely not relevant to you, you can just turn them off and they disappear. But if it is something that's applicable to your company, you're going to tick this box and you're going to set it up per office. The next section here is the break settings. So do you decide, do you pay for breaks? Are they unpaid? Are there limited breaks periods, or do you want to just reflect what you've put in the work pattern? So say, for example, if somebody's on Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 with a 45-minute break, do you want to use the work pattern break duration that they get 45-minute break period that you aren't paying for? Or is it a case of that if somebody actually has a break for an hour, that you're going to take that clock in and out duration instead? So which one do you want to use? Do you want to use what they're actually clocking in and out for, or do you want to use the prescribed break that they actually have in their work pattern? And you can link it to a payment ID here as well. Okay, so a little bit complicated here in regards to the rounding policies. You just have to really take a step back and decide what your actual policies are in your own company, and then decide how you're going to apply them. And come and talk to us when you're setting this up to make sure that we've got it all set up properly. So the next section here is then, your timesheet settings. So do you want to auto submit timesheets when people are on leave? So say, for example, if somebody's on holidays, do you want their timesheet to be completed with their work pattern? So their Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or whatever it is, automatically populates, or do you want it to just be blank? So you can do either there, and then what day will the timesheets be submitted by? And that really gets dictated by your payroll. So what time of day in the week do you need to have people's timesheets submitted and approved by? Now we have all that done in regards to how it kind of works in the structure. We need to start looking at your pay elements and your file positions. So your payment IDs and your file positions. So this is where you're going to go into your payroll system and you're going to find this information out. The file position is mostly important if you're using Sage, because they have a structured way that they want the report to come up. Most other payroll providers like BrightPay would have that it doesn't really matter about the file position, because when you upload the Excel spreadsheet, you're able to move things and match things, and it'll take the header. But very important for Sage that it's the same, that it corresponds back. So if you see here, so I've got my first payment ID being my basic pay. It's going to be in file position 1, who was created by. You can put in your time and a half, double pay, sick pay, and it's the file position 8, maternity benefit, public holidays, annual leaves, bonus, things like that. And you can keep going. So, you can put in your, you pay extra for study time or overtime or anything like that. So you can build your pay elements. I'm just going to edit one here and you can have a look and see. So you put in your payment ID. So what the actual ID is in your payroll system, what name is it, and what file position. Again, very important if you're using Sage, not so important if you're using some of the other payroll systems that are able to actually just take the header and match it. And then it'll show you all the other payroll payments, the pay elements here as well. So this part is important because it has to align back up to your payroll system. So you need to go into your payroll system, understand what your payment IDs are, understand the file position if you're using Sage, and to make sure that they're applicable to that office. Again, now you've kind of got that ticked off. I've got my list here of things that I'm ticking off. So I've got my payment IDs done. I've got my office set up as well. So, and my rounding set up. Now I actually need to start applying it to some work patterns. So again, we're going to go back into the company here, go into my offices. We're setting up the head office today. So we're going to go back into let me show you here 1 second, your payroll side of things, and let's have a look and see. You're going to scroll the whole way down here, and we're going to update work patterns. So we go to the updating work patterns. There's a little bit of, here's one I prepared earlier. So we're going to go to the head office work pattern, and I'm going to edit the payment IDs. So I've added some here already. So I've added that between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. That's going to be time and a half, and that's the payment ID that you saw me just set up a second ago. So if somebody clocks in between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m., those hours are going to go into the time and a half pay period. If they clock in from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it's going to be your basic pay. And you see here I've aligned it to the basic pay element, the payment ID. And then if somebody clocks in from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock, it's again back to the time and a half. Okay, so we can build that out. Now I've done this, so on this specific work pattern that I've looked at, I'm going to apply these settings to all the working days, and it's automatically going to go into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But so we're happy that's how it's going to work for weekdays. But on a Saturday, it's a little bit different. So on a Saturday, if somebody works from 9 to 6, it's not basic. It's going to be let's see, it's going to be your double pay. Okay, and you can put in what time that is. And so maybe it's going to be just double pay all day on a Saturday. Okay, so we're going to put in that from 5 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. It's just double pay on a Saturday. Okay, or if you want to do it that, they get double pay, for the first 4 hours that they work, and then they get time and a half after that. You just have to set it up per the hours. You can do the same thing on a Sunday. So again, we're going to remove this, and we're going to say that. And for example, this is completely customizable. So, if you were to do that, it's going to be triple pay on a Sunday or whatever it is, you're just going to put in that it's a Sunday payment, and you're going to have that create that payroll ID, call it their Sunday payment hours, and then you're going to link it back over here. So you're going to do that for each work pattern that you have. So now anybody who's assigned to that work pattern, when they're clocking in and out or submitting their timesheets, any hours that are in those time periods that they're going to match them. If they clock in between 5 a.m. and 9 o'clock on a Monday to Friday, they're going to get double pay. If they clock, time and a half. If they clock on a Saturday, they're going to get double pay. Anything between their normal working hours is going to go into the basic pay bucket, if that makes sense. Again, any questions that you have, please drop them into me. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on to the next section here. Oh, sorry, do I have a question there? Yes, so actually I'm going to go through this quickly while the question is here is, hi, is there a way each department can have a payroll manager as such and look after their department but not see any info from other department, example, employee bank details on HRLocker? So absolutely. So I'm just going to show you the way this works. So if we just go back to the start, that we've set up our payroll for that office, we've set up the payment IDs, we've set up the rounding rules, and we've set up the work patterns in regards to how that those payment IDs sit on the work pattern. And now you're going to set up, well, who actually manages this? Who's your actual payroll managers? So if you go into the directory here, and let's choose Andy Roberts here, he's a manager. And if I go into the permissions, and if I go into directory here and I put on, say, on for subordinates or on for selected offices, so put in on for subordinates and selected employees, probably for an office. So let's do on for office. You see here that there's payroll manager. So if you select the payroll manager and you decide that you only want to limit them to that it's not limited per department, it's limited per office. So you'd have to set that department up as an office for them to manage. So the report is kind of run per office. So you would say that Jane, if she's running the payroll for office 1, you're going to limit her access to the offices. So you're only going to give her access to, maybe she's only doing it for head office, and that's the only place that she's able to see. So she's not going to see people in Germany's information or people in Poland or Switzerland or whatever office that they're in. So that person is only going to see their information for that office that you've assigned them to. So they won't see any other information than that. But you do have to give them access to the directory and then give them the payroll manager access. So by default, all managers will not have access to this. The other really important thing is that you may have given them access here, but you do actually have to give them access to the reports as well. Now this will give them access to those payroll reports and the information that you allow them to have access to. So that's how you'll set it up for the payroll managers to make sure that they're not seeing other information that they're not supposed to see. Okay. So now we've set up our payroll managers as well. I hope that answers your question. If you want to go into more in-depth questions about that, about kind of your own specific example, if you want to, we can contact myself or somebody in support. We can go through quite specific of how you can make sure that your payroll managers are only seeing the departments or information that that's relevant to themselves. So And actually, I'll tell you what this is. So yes, we tried this. We set someone up as a payroll manager in an office, but when someone in a different office changed their bank details, the other payroll manager got the notification. So I'm not sure specifically exactly what your own example is, but I would presume that at a company level that you have pushed that the person gets CC'd on all information here, the send personal details. Change notification here. So my presumption, but again, if you want to contact us, we can have a look at it, is that you have put that payroll manager here in the company setting to get all the information here when somebody changes their information. So if you're putting, so it's important if you're putting people's email addresses here at a company level, that it means that they're actually getting information from the entire company. So that will override the setting. So make sure that you're not putting that payroll manager's information in here if you're limiting them to an office. But come and talk to us. I'm presuming that that's actually what you've done over there. Okay. So again, really important to make sure that you've come and talked to us, and that we're making sure that your settings are correct for payroll, because it is a little bit lots of sensitive information. Okay, so again, if we start from the top, we've gone into our offices, we've set up our payment IDs, we put in our rounding rules, we've done our work patterns to assign them against the payment IDs, and now we need to link our time off, which again, if we go to our offices here, I'm working on the head office, enter my settings, and into time off. We need to link our time off to our payment IDs. So for example, the very first one I'm going to do is the annual leave. I'm going to scroll down here and you see there's annual leave payment ID. I'm going to link it to the annual leave payment ID here. Sick leave payment ID, I'm going to link it to sick pay here as well. If, for example, you have a maternity payment benefit, you're going to link it there to the payment ID here as well. So you can, you just link it, you'd create your maternity benefit and link it there to the payment ID for that as well. So you can do that per time off element that you have. So once you have your time off linked, the next section that you're going to have a look at is linking your bonuses side of things. So if I go into the directory here, go into myself actually, into comps and bends over here, and when I'm adding a bonus, I can put in a payment ID. So you see I can link it to a payment ID of being bonus or whatever it is that makes sense to you. And if you put in that it is going to be, let's put in that it's the 20th of October. Okay. I'm going to get 5,000 euros then. I put it in that the payment ID is there, put in the value, put them in the effective date that it's in this month. Okay. And you see that it's in this month. When I pull down the report for this monthly period, that's what's going to come down. If I put it in for last month, in September, it's not going to come down in the report. Okay, so we have kind of the bulk of the work done here. So I'm going to go and have a look at the report section now. So in the report section now, if you've given somebody payroll access, they're going to have access to this payroll section here. Again, if you've only allowed them to have access to a specific office, they won't see this drop down of all offices. They will only see the office that you've allowed them to have access to. So all our settings that we were doing were for head office. The payment period is usually your week number. So, if it's week, I don't know what this week is, let's put in there this week 40. You can do the date range, whether it's by month or by week or by start or end date. So if you're not paying people, so our timesheets run from Monday to Sunday. But for example, if you're paying people from a Wednesday to Wednesday, that's fine. You can just put in the start date and end date here. Or if you want to just do it by week, by month, or like the full calendar month or the full week. So I'm going to do a monthly report here, and I'm going to do it for the month of October. And then I'm going to include the headers. So really important here that the header makes the report easier to read for you. But if you're uploading it into Sage, it's important that you delete that header from the report. But for other payrolls, most of the time you can just ignore it. But so it makes sense for your own side to be able to read the report. But when you're uploading it again, specifically to Sage, make sure that you're deleting that. So the two sections and the two reports I'm going to be looking at is this hourly payroll multiple overtime rates report. So we're going to look at both, and we're going to look at the Sage version as well. Just going to open up the Sage version here as well. Yeah. So there's a Sage version. So this is what I was talking about in regards to the headers. So obviously it makes it easier to read. You can see the period is here is week 40. That was my employee number, which is important. This is just a Sage thing in that this column C is just never used. So it's just going to put a not used. From a Sage perspective, it's important that it's there. Not really sure why, but that's a requirement for Sage. You can see here that in terms of basic time, again, Sage doesn't use decimal points, so it's actually 27 hours. I didn't work any, so I worked 27 hours in basic time that I was going to be paid for, and my time and a half didn't work anything in that, worked 3 hours in double pay, and you can see here is my bonus. So that's 5,000 euro that I put in, and if you just recall, I said that Sage doesn't put in decimal points, but it's actually 0.00. Sage picks that up, and I didn't work anything else in the rest of it. So that's the Sage report, and you'll see here the main difference between the Sage report and kind of the more simple report that will work with most other payrolls, but really with all other payrolls, is you've got your period, your first name and your last name, payroll ID, tax number. I worked 27 hours in basic, 3 hours in double pay, and 5,000 euros for my bonus. The really big difference between specifically around Sage is that, and the difference between the other payroll systems that we've seen people using, is that Sage, it's really important that you're having the file position correct. So if your annual leave is in position, what do we want? So it's after here, isn't it? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's in file position 4, that Sage requires it to be set to be file position 4. And then also just from your own side of things, when you're reading it, you might go, oh my God, I'm paying this person 50,000 euros, 500,000 euros. You're not. Sage just doesn't actually put in the decimal point for whatever reason. Most other reports most other payroll systems that we've seen people use, Quantum, BrightPay, MicroPay, they're happy with just, they'll be able to take this as an upload, so they'll match it to the payment IDs that you have, and the tax number there is your unique identifier. Just check, have I gone through everything? Oh yes, one extra thing. So from a payroll perspective, in regards to your actual time period, you're requiring people either to clock in and out or submit their timesheet or put in their different times in their timesheets. It's no problem. The information is going to come in here. If you also want to be paying people on the projects that they do, so you can set the projects up specifically maybe for overtime, or if they get a different rate if they're working on a specific project, you can also set payment IDs on those projects. So I'm just going to go and I'll just show you briefly how to do that. If you go into the time on section here, into projects, just go into this project over here. So you can see that I can include it in the payroll report, and I can assign it here maybe to overtime or something like that, or you can create whatever payment ID that you want there. And if you include the project, you can bring it over into the payroll report as well, into those two reports I've just shown you. So that's kind of really it from a payroll reporting perspective. The really important thing is that the really important thing is that you're really setting it up correctly from the start. You don't want to be actually, just kind of seeing does it work by chance. So come and talk to us about just actually setting it up, making sure that your payroll managers are set up correctly, that they have the correct access that they're supposed to have. If you want to limit to office or settings that the payroll manager is allowed to have, we'll go through exactly how that's set up. Also in regards to just looking at your own payroll system, we have a payroll expert team here that can go through with you just in regards to looking at the download that you're currently sending to your payroll or currently using for your payroll. If you're using another provider or a bureau, just come and talk to us in regards to the actual the output that they require, and we can go through go through that. What I would say, if you're looking to actually talk to somebody about payroll, you should all have an account manager. If you don't, so go and contact them. If you don't, just come and talk to us here in the green bubble, and we can set something up for yourselves. Or you can contact just support@HRLocker.com. That's always manned as well. But important to come and talk to us. It's quite easy to set up. but we're really happy to go through anything with you just to make sure that you're comfortable with everything and that you're happy that everything is set up correctly. We can maybe do a dummy run as well, just to make sure that things are working properly. The key things, I suppose, just from our own experience when we're setting this up with companies, is what's really important is that, once everything is set up, that's in theory the easy part. The next part is to make sure that your employees are submitting their timesheets on time, that your managers are approving your timesheets on time, that you understand what your rounding rules are. So that element of it is make sure when you're rolling it out that those things are kind of carefully considered and are put in place. If you're using clock in and out, when do you want your timesheets to be submitted? When do you want your managers to approve them? Do you want them to auto submit? If you're not using clock in and out, if you're just using the timesheets that people can enter in manually, when do you want those submitted? When do you want your managers to approve them? So Jenny's just put in there the support at HRLocker email. Please, if you have any questions, come and talk to ourselves. We'd be delighted to help you set it up or turn it on for yourselves. But thank you so much for listening to me today. Looking forward to next month's webinar. And again, thank you all for your time. Take care.